Hi guys, welcome to this super late video where I talk about my top 10 books of 2019. The reason this video is so late, I have filmed these top 10s a couple of times, but every time I've gone to start editing them, I just haven't liked how they turned out. I haven't liked them at all, and it just became a question of, do I want to post something that I'm not proud of? And so ultimately, I didn't want to post something I was not proud of. So we're trying this again. I took a very long break from filming and editing any videos for this channel, just to kind of recenter my mind and get into a mindset where I'm okay with doing this. I just needed a break, basically. So hopefully this time around I will actually post this one. And I'm so upset that it happened with these videos, just because the top 10s are usually my favorites to film, talk about, edit. They're my favorites. I look forward to them every year. And this year, I just wasn't liking them. Ugh. Anyway, so I do have my top 10 books of a bunch of other years. I think I've been doing them for 5 years now, so I will list all the other years down below if you want to check out my other top 10s. And then also I have a top 10 movies and a top 10 TV shows of 2019, so you can also check those out. Those will be listed down below, as well as another video that I was actually really proud of and still am really proud of, and that is my book and movie statistics for 2019. So if you want to know what I am basing this list off of, and you want to see all the books that I read in 2019, it'll be in that video, where then also after that I also talk about the statistics, which is actually quite interesting. I find them interesting, at least. But now that I feel like I've gotten everything out of the way that I need to say, let's go right into the top 10. But actually, just kidding, before we go into the top 10, I gotta mention some honorable mentions. And they are gonna be in order, so technically it's I'm giving you my top 15 books of 2019. So the first honorable mention, technically number 15, is gonna be Saga Volume 9. I very much enjoy the Saga graphic novel series, which is surprising because I'm normally not really into graphic novels. But I enjoyed the Saga series. I will say lately it had started to dwindle for me, but that 9th one really brought it back home for me, and I absolutely enjoyed the 9th one. I really want the 10th one now. With the way the 9th one ended, it was such a cliffhanger. But this is kind of like a space opera Romeo Juliet graphic novel series. It's the best way I've been able to explain it and describe it, but it's so good. My next honorable mention is Othello. I gave myself a goal for the year 2019 to read one Shakespeare play each month. And I did it. I succeeded in that, which I was very happy with. And my favorite that I read, not ones that I reread, because my favorite Shakespeare play is still Midsummer Night's Dream, but I had read that one before. So based off of the new ones that I read, Othello was definitely my favorite, which I was surprised. I did not think I was going to like Othello because I hadn't really been enjoying his dramas. I was more so enjoying his comedies. But I really loved Othello. I thought Iago was a great villain, and I thought this actually had a really great ending compared to all of other Shakespeare's plays. They always had the same kind of ending, but this one was different in a way, and it also just felt complete, and I felt satisfied with the ending. And I just loved the complexities of the characters in this one. I thought this was some of his best work with characters. The next honorable mention is Well Met, which is a adult romance. It's a hate to love romance that takes place at a Renaissance fair. So already knew I was going to be in love with it. I thought this was really great. This actually made me realize how much I do love hate to love romances. They're my favorite, and this one was a great one. So good. I don't have anything else to say about it. Just so you know, I'm gonna keep these things that I'm talking about, these books, very brief, because I feel like I'm gonna say the same things over and over again. Then my next honorable mention is We Are the Ants, which was surprising. I don't know why I was so surprised. I had a feeling I was gonna really love it, but then there's also that part of me that didn't think I was going to love it and I was going to be disappointed, but I was not disappointed at all. I also just randomly picked this up for Alien Abduction Day. I was like, how do I celebrate it? Reading a book about alien abductions. So it's about this boy who gets abducted by aliens. They tell him that the world's gonna end in a certain amount of days. I can't remember the amount of days. But they tell him that if he pushes this button, the world will not end. And so they send him back to Earth, and he has a couple days to decide what he's gonna choose. Because right now he is not liking his life, he's not liking people, he is just like really wanting to, you know what, not push that button and just let the world end. But it's about him kind of going through life and deciding, is it still worth saving? Is Earth still worth saving? Are the people here still worth saving? Is life still worth living? That kind of a thing. And I was just really surprised with how profound it was and like impactful. And I don't know why I was expecting it to be more like on the comedy side, but it was definitely more on like not comedy. Very much more on like the serious side and coming to age type stuff. And then my last honorable mention, technically number 11, that I wish had made it into my top 10, and I was so upset it didn't. That is Birthday by Meredith Russo. This was another very like impactful, hard-hitting, coming of age / coming to terms with who you are type story. We follow two people. I don't remember their names, but we have one who is coming to terms with the fact that he is actually a she, and he's transgender, and we also follow his friend, who he also kind of like has a crush on. And it's about like their friendship that turns into this really beautiful relationship. It was told so well, and I think that's because it is an Own Voices author. The author is transgender as well, so I thought it had a really great voice for that, and it felt very truthful and honest and real, and I really loved this book. So now we're on to number 10, and at number 10 I have And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I really enjoy Agatha Christie. This is only the second of hers that I've read, but I do want to read more by her. This is also her like most well-known, her most popular, and I really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to read more of hers. I've already bought like 2 more books of hers that I want to read. But I literally had no idea where this was going until the last page. It was on the edge of your seat, like crazy town. I don't know how to explain it. We follow like a group of people, I think it's 12, that were all sent to this island, and they find out that they're all connected because they have all killed people, and one by one they start dying. They start being murdered, and it's just trying to figure out who is the murderer, and it was just, oh my goodness, it was so good. At number 9 I have The Prince and the Dressmaker. This is another graphic novel. I'm so surprised I have 2 on my freaking list. I was not expecting to really love this, and I ended up loving it. I feel like that is a theme, that I didn't expect to like these books, and then they end up being in my top 10 video, and it's just, anyway, it was just so cute and very adorable. It's about a prince who likes to wear dresses, and so during the day he's the prince, but at night he is Dahlia, and it's about his relationship that he creates with the dressmaker that he has hired. And it's just really sweet, and yeah, ooey gooey cuteness, and I really, really loved it. At number 8, I have Maybe in Another Life by one of my all-time favorite authors, and that is Taylor Jenkins Reid, and you're going to see her not just this time, but you're also going to see her again in this list. But I've read Maybe in Another Life and absolutely loved it. It was, oh my god, it's so brilliant. We have a woman who is moving kind of back home, but she moves in with her friend, and at a bar they're like hanging out, and she runs into her ex-boyfriend from high school, and she has to make a decision either to go home with him or leave with her friend. And the book kind of takes you on both journeys. It shows you what would have happened if she had went home with him or if she had went home with her friend, and how the lives are completely different but also kind of similar at the same time. And it's just answering the question of like, is there really such a thing as a soulmate? And I thought it was told so well. I didn't get confused with the different timelines. And I loved the whole aspect of like one decision can completely change your life. I love that Taylor Jenkins Reid's books just like rip your heart out. But yeah, really like this. At number 7, we have another one that I was not expecting to really love, and that is The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke. Or Funk. I don't know how to pronounce the name. But this was a book recommended to me by a friend of mine who I now, whenever he recommends books, I just always read them. It's a children's book that takes place in Venice, Italy, which might be one of the main reasons I really loved it, because I've been to Venice and it's such a beautiful, beautiful place. And the way that this book described Venice was perfect and was just absolutely amazing. And it took me back to Venice, and so I just really loved the descriptions that were in this book. We follow 2 kids who ran away from home, and they're now living with a bunch of kids who live on the streets. And there's a thing of like magical realism involved with this that I don't really want to explain, even though it is kind of a big part in the plot. But I also feel like it's big spoilers for things. But then we also have the private investigator hired to find the kids, and it's just, it never went anywhere where I was expecting it to go. And it was just a really beautiful story. And I typically don't like magical realism, which is I think another reason why I found it so surprising that I loved this one so much. Number 6, I have All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't like this book at all, but this book really connected with me emotionally. I read it within, I think, 2 sittings, which rarely happens, and I was crying my eyes out reading this book. And I cannot wait for the movie. I know the movie has already come out. I think by the time this video comes out, maybe not. No, I don't know. Depends on when this video is out. It's either coming soon or it's already out, but I'm very excited for the movie. I thought it was done very well. We follow these 2 teens who both not mentally well, and they meet when they're both standing on top of a roof trying to commit suicide, and they both kind of like stop each other, but then they create this romance that I don't want to call a beautiful romance. It's beautiful in the way that it's broken. Like the brokenness of it is beautiful, and like the tragedy of it is beautiful. Am I making sense? I completely resonated with this book and I really loved it. At number 5, I have another Taylor Jenkins Reid book, and that is One True Loves. This is another one that just broke my heart. She likes to break my heart, Taylor Jenkins Reid. And she really broke it with this one. We follow a woman who, her husband, she had a really beautiful relationship with her husband. They were like high school sweethearts and whatnot, but then he goes on a photography job, I think in Arctic, somewhere like that, and he is missing, presumed dead. So now it's 5 years later after that, and she is engaged to someone else, and her husband comes back and he's alive. And now she is torn between her 2 loves. Her husband, who she thought was dead, and this new man that she has grown to really fall in love with. So it's just kind of like, not so much choosing which guy, but also just kind of like finding herself and like figuring out who she is, if that makes any sense, which kind of like helps her decide which guy. And I know some people are going to have issues with the ending. I thought it was the right ending for the book and for the character, so I really enjoyed it in that sense. At number 4, I have 10 Blind Dates, another shocking one. I thought this was just going to be one of those like cutesy, lighthearted teen rom-coms, which I guess it is, now that I think about it. But I did not think I was going to fall in love with this as much as I have. I really didn't think I was going to put it this high up on the list. I really want this to be like a Netflix Christmas rom-com. It's so bad. But we follow a teenage girl who has She was at a party with her friends and she overhears her boyfriend saying that he wants to break up with her. So she decides to stay with her family for the holiday season, at her grandma's house with her very extended large family, who she hasn't really talked to or like seen very much. And she kind of like opens up to her grandma and talks to her about why she's feeling sad. But the next morning, the entire family knows about it, and they have all decided to set her up on blind dates. So she goes on a blind date every single day, right before like New Year's Eve, pretty much. And I love the aspect too of that, like, most of her family members do have her best interest at heart, but there are some family members that really just want to like screw with her on these dates, and they turn out to be so funny. And I just think this is just a really fun story and a fun ride. And I mean, I knew, obviously, like, it was predictable, like, I knew exactly who she was going to end up with in the end, but at the same time, I loved the journey getting there. That's always my thing. Like, even if it's predictable and I know how it's going to end, as long as the journey getting there is satisfying, I'm in love with it. And that's exactly what happened with this one. I know this will probably not be on so many other people's top 10s, but it's on mine because I just love romantic comedies. And this is a really, really good one. At number 3, I have the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I don't know if this is cheating because it's technically 3 books, but if I am choosing one out of those 3, I am choosing Siege and Storm as my favorite out of all of them. I really love the introduction of Nikolai in that book. I think he's the best character, even though I don't know why, but I decided to ship her with all 3. I decided to ship her with Mal, Nikolai, and the Darkling. Don't ask me why I shipped her with the Darkling. But we follow Mal. By the way, this is a young adult fantasy series that takes place in the Grishaverse is what it's called, which, by the way, Leigh Bardugo is one of my favorite fantasy writers, so I knew I was going to love this trilogy. But we follow Mal, no, we don't. We don't follow Mal. Who do we follow? Alina. We follow Alina. She, like, is from, like, a poor family. She's like a nobody. But then she finds out that she is a sun summoner, which means she can produce light from her body. And everyone sees her as a hero and savior and can save them from the Fold, which is something that the Darkling created. And it's just pretty much like evil darkness. I don't really know how to explain the Fold. Leigh Bardugo does a really great job of explaining it though. And it just turns into this very wild ride that's epic in every way. I absolutely loved every book, and I loved where the story went. And I know this is becoming a TV show for Netflix, I believe, but I think they're combining it with the Six of Crows duology, which I don't know how that's gonna work out. But I'm very excited to see this come to screen. At number 2, I have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That's right, I have her 3 times on this list because she's just so good. Daisy Jones and the Six is not my favorite of hers. I still think that goes to Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but this is still so amazing. This takes place in the 70s. We follow Daisy Jones and the Six. They're a band, and like in this story, like everyone knows about Daisy Jones and the Six. They're this really big popular band that were huge but only ever had one album and like one tour, and then they broke up and no one ever knew why. And this book is from the perspective of all the characters, like all the people in the band, all like the managers and whatever. It's them telling the story of what happened, how they came to be, and then what happened that led to them breaking up. I love how she can tell a story that's fiction, but it feels like it's real. Because as soon as I was done reading the book, I went to YouTube and was trying to find like concert footage. And then I realized that's right, it's not real. And I can't actually listen to these songs. Because she actually wrote the lyrics to all of the songs from that album. There is like a twist at the end that I totally did not see coming, and it came out of nowhere. This too is also becoming a TV show produced by Reese Witherspoon, who is my queen. I love her. And it's, I think, coming to Hulu, if I'm not mistaken. But I cannot wait, because that means the songs are gonna become real. I'm gonna actually hear what they sound like. and I'm so excited. But let's move on to number 1, which is another very shocking book that I did not expect to even be anywhere in my top 10 or even in my honorable mentions, but that is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Like, what? I gave myself a goal for the year 2019 to read 1 classic each month. I did not succeed. But this is one of the classics that I read. And right before I read this, all of the classics that I had been reading, I was really not enjoying them. So I was very hesitant going into this, but I ended up loving it so much. And yes, I do know the story of Peter Pan because I've watched all the movies that are like based off of Peter Pan and stuff, and the actual Peter Pan Disney cartoon movie, and I enjoy them. I do. I like the musical of Peter Pan. I like Hook. I like all of like the Peter Pan stories. But there's something about reading the original story that's just, I don't know, it has like a different feel to it, but it's also the same. It's just like a different experience reading it rather than watching it. It's just very fantastical and like whimsical, and I don't know, it brought something different for me this time around. It felt like reading it, it felt like a different story. By the way, I realized my version of Peter Pan, the book that I have, was a combination of Peter and Wendy and Peter Pan at Kensington Gardens. I want to make sure that I'm distinguishing. I wasn't a fan of Peter Pan and Kensington Gardens, but Peter and Wendy is the story that I am talking about. And it's so good. That is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, please also go check out my top 10 movies and my top 10 TV shows of 2019. And then I will see you guys later with more videos.